Good evening, everybody. This is your boy D Mac. Let's talk. Before I get into it, I want to thank everybody. The page is growing, man. It's more subscribers, getting more views, more likes. All of this is awesome, man, and I'm very humbled by everybody who's supporting this channel and the content that I'm putting out. I try to make sure that I'm as factual as possible in everything I bring to you, and yeah, that's it. I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of love before I jump into it. Shout out to my boy Big J. Salute to you, my brother. And if you like this channel, you're gonna love Big J Let's Talk. So go ahead over there, hit those likes, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't, and check out his content because we're on that same wavelength. Um, so now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's get into it. All right, so I want to get into Governor Cuomo because he did this speech and he laid out a plan that he had for stopping the gun violence in New York City. Bravo. We applaud those types of actions. But just as my title says, you're a day late and a dollar short, Governor Cuomo, because I say that because of this. You've been governor of New York since 2011. Am I correct? Because I was saying to myself, well, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. You know, we're coming off of the last administration who really didn't see eye to eye with him, and they didn't really want to help him much with the COVID thing. So they definitely wouldn't want to help him with the gun violence thing. But then I looked it up and said, hold up, he's been the mayor since 2011. So that means you've been through the Obama era. So you had the Democrats in there. You've been through the Trump era. So you mean to tell me through both of those eras, you couldn't get any type of gun reform, no type of programs initiated for what you're trying to lay out now? Because once again, I applaud the effort and I'll never speak against somebody who's trying to do the right thing. But where was all of this before? New York has always been like that. New York has always been known for its violence. You had the GS9s, you have the what was it? Oh boy, it's the Treyway, the Trey Nines, or all of these different factions of Bloods and Crips and stuff throughout New York that have been wreaking havoc for years. And we've always known the reputation of certain parts of New York. So why now? All of a sudden, is it a mandatory thing? And it's something on your to-do list. This is something that I've been wondering because it's kind of mind-boggling to me, especially after I seen a police officer about 2 years ago from New York talk about how they were given incentives to catch guys and get felony gun charges on people, which were giving them the incentive to plant guns on people and to actually harass citizens on the streets of New York. And this was all okay by Governor Cuomo. So if you're the reason why a lot of these inner city youths are in the position they are, then you're trying to turn around and do something about it. At least admit to the fact of you being part of the problem, because you say it like these inner city youth, they're only 3% of the population, but they do 60% of the gun violence. Okay, well, if they have no programs in place like the ones that you're presenting now in 2021, if they had those back in 2011 or 2012 or all the way up from that point to now when you've been in office and in control, then maybe we would have a better grip on this. So where was the idea to implement these programs then? Where was the and you claim that you didn't have the funding or the backing. Where did this funding and backing come for it now that you're starting to roll out? Is this from the Biden administration? Is this because of the crunch down on gun control that we want to get in this country, and not so far as gun control of the violent criminals, but gun control of the people who do the right thing and the responsible gun owners, because those are the only ones that you can keep track of. Let's be honest. You're not keeping track of what criminal has a gun. The only way you keep track of what criminal has a gun is when you catch them and you get that weapon off of them. But you don't know how many of these. You don't have a log saying, "Well, this criminal bought this gun on this day," because they're black market weapons. And there's so many other ways that guys get weapons other than your legal way to where it can be documented. So there's so many undocumented guns out there in the streets. So when you talk about gun control, whose guns are you going to control? You're going to control the guns of these responsible people who go out and get the license, who go out and do all of the responsible things necessary for them to carry their weapons and be able to protect their family from a tyrannical government, which is the Second Amendment. That's the reason that it was put in place, because George Washington even stated itself. At some point, this country will come across that rogue president who's going to try to become a dictator and use the army against the people, and the people are going to have to be able to arm themselves with something sufficient to be able to defend themselves against that type of firepower. This is what we're fighting for. We're not fighting about having guns, period. We're fighting about having sufficient firepower to be able to hold off an army if we're ever put in a position by a rogue president who would do such a thing to the American people. And we do have that right to defend ourselves. So, this is what the fight of gun control is all about. So, when they say gun control, whose guns are they going to control? Once again, that's my question, because you're not going to control the guns of these criminals out here. If that was the case, then you would have control of their guns already. You've been at this for since 2011. So you have no control of the guns, but your keen, great idea was to have your police officers jump out and harass any black or brown man that they saw in order to get a gun charge, because they were getting incentives for doing these types of things. And that led to targeting of black and brown men all throughout New York, to the point to where it became a national crisis and it was brought to the attention of the whole country. So let's get real, Governor Cuomo, and let's talk about what you're really doing. You're trying to save face because you understand that a lot of your tactics and a lot of your negligence is the reason why New York is in the situation that it's in. And then you add in the outside influence of, say, the drill music coming from Chicago, and then bringing that whole violent scene into New York, and you still having those lackluster tactics of just roughing up the people and protecting the upper class from the lower class and the unmentionables. See, this concept and the way that you've done things all of these years, now you're starting to reap the consequences of your half done job. Whenever you persecute or oppress a certain people within your city as if they're the only criminal element in your city, and you make it seem like the narrative of you're protecting the upper class from the lower class in the city, and you don't put in any programs to help those lower class people to raise up, then that means that this is done by design. This is absolutely done by design, because when you're spending more money on high tech prisons, but you're not spending any money in the inner cities to build up those schools to where they have good transportation back and forth to school, to where they have decent meals to eat so that they won't worry about being hungry while they're in school, so that they will have decent books and classrooms to go into, that they will be safe and they will have a good environment to learn. That's where you start. So all of these programs that you're trying to implement into the communities now wouldn't have been necessary if you would have been feeding into the community from the start. We would have a bigger head start and there wouldn't be so much to make up now. But being that you drug your feet and you thought that everything was fine until someone called you out on all of your neglect to the people of the city, now you want to come out and say, "Oh, well, look at this great plan that we've put together." Well, how long have you been planning this? Have you been planning it since 2011? That's my question, because now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we have funding for these little programs that you want to bring into the community. We have funding to create over 20,000 jobs. Isn't that what you said? About 20,000 jobs you can create and make sure that you give these young people a job and give them an opportunity at a career. Where has this been? If we are citizens of this country, where has these opportunities been for us? So if you're having to create those now, my question is, where have they been all along? That is proof in itself that these programs did not exist for our people in New York, because their whole entire plan was to regentrify. Regentrification is what's taking place in New York. Let's be honest. We've heard the conversations about it. Yeah, you go in and you fix up these different areas, these low income areas, and that's what you see on the front. Oh wow, they're fixing up this area right here. It used to be so horrible. Look at it now. It's beautiful. But what they're not telling you is that they're pushing the people out. The residents that are there, they're pushing them out, pushing them down to another bad area, and they're filling and occupying those apartments, those newly renovated, regentrified apartments. They're giving them to the upper class. Now they're pushing the lower class people further down in the neighborhoods. This is what's taking place, but on the surface, it looks like they're fixing up the city and they're beautifying the city and they're making the areas better. But no, they're, in a sense they are, but they're not fixing the problem. That's the thing. They're fixing the areas, they're fixing the outside, but they're not fixing the problem. And that's the lack of funding and resources for the people that they're pushing down into another area just to make that one consolidated area of crime so that they can take all of their statistics and put them in that one area. This is where this zoning and districts and all of that stuff comes into play. They can say zone 3 is the problem. You look in zone 3, you have 3% of the youth, but they're doing 66% of the crime. Well, they're not saying that in zone 3, you don't have any funding for the schools, you don't have any after school programs, you don't have anywhere for these children to go after school, and they go straight into this bad environment of poverty and drugs and violence. See, these are the things that they're not throwing into those statistics so that they can keep pushing a certain narrative. But when you have people who's going to dig deep and really look for the full story, then that's when you get called out like Governor Cuomo and you feel the need to lay out a plan of how you're going to end gun violence in New York. But my thing is this: you can lay out all the plans that you want to, until you really solve the issue, which is the needs of the people. And it's not just the people of New York, it is the black and brown people all across this country. You're going to continue to have problems like New York and Chicago and Florida and Texas and all of these other states that are growing more and more in violence. Louisiana, Mississippi, all of these different places, California. You have so many of the largest states who are just riddled with gun violence. Why? Because they won't deal with the problem. They'll continue to put a band-aid on a broken leg. The people are broken. The people are hurting. The people have been crying out for opportunities for the longest. And all you've done was made promises and you didn't keep those promises. or you made it seem as though you kept those promises. And we know that our government is real good at making it look like they're helping when they're really not. You look at Haiti right now, the situation that Haiti is going through, it could have been dealt with a long time ago. It could have been fixed a long time ago. The United States was backing President Moise, and they knew that he didn't run the election like he was supposed to, and reinstitute everything he was supposed to, because America has always been good at dictating what a dictator does. That's what they do. They don't fight against dictators. They just get control of the dictator so that they can dictate them and what they do. That's what they did with Saddam Hussein. That's what they did with Osama bin Laden. That's what they did with, well, they tried to do it with Muammar Gaddafi. He wouldn't allow it, so they had to take him out. We have to look at what our people are really saying. Governor Cuomo has put out a narrative that they're going to clean up gun violence in New York. And I submit to you that they will not clean up anything. If anything, they'll just spin a certain narrative, push the people down in a certain area, cover up certain things, just like he got in trouble for with the COVID thing. He plays with the numbers, and he's going to keep on playing with those numbers until it comes out in his favor and it looks favorable for him, or he's able to explain the numbers that they came up with. So we've already seen his character. We've already seen his lack of integrity when it comes down to bringing information to the people. So why then should we trust this information that he's bringing out? This is the issue. They've always talked and given promises and all of these empty gestures, such as these holidays that do absolutely nothing for the people. And we'll say, oh, wow, he really cares. But we don't see anything that materializes from these empty gestures. So no more time for the empty gestures. Governor Cuomo, we need more than just a plan laid out. We want to see it placed in action. We want to see the people actually giving testimony about what's being done in their neighborhoods, because you and your representatives can tell us anything. You can paint any narrative that you want to, but when we hear it come from the people, that's when we're going to know that progress has been made. Now, I don't want to speculate, but it is alleged that President Moisi was murdered because he was given $13 billion, what is it, relief for the big devastation that they had in Haiti. But the Haitian people were not being taken care of. They were being neglected, and that money was being used for something else. So America, pay close attention. I'm not spreading any type of violence. Please hear me clearly. But I am giving you a warning, a cautionary tale. That is a cautionary tale. If you don't take care of your people and you push their backs against the wall and they feel like they have no other option, they're going to do something that is outside of their character. We've seen it with the insurrection on January the 6th, and that's not going to be the last time. So, Governor Cuomo, any other governor, any other politician, period, who has a plan to help the people, make sure that it's not that empty promise that you always give, because this is a new time and people have a new mindset, and they're not just going to settle for the same old political games. So I just wanted to put this out here, and I wanted to sound the alarm to the people, because when they make these gestures about what they're going to do and the formula that they have set in place, we must follow up on it and we must hold their feet to the fire, because if not, they're not going to do anything but give us a lot of lip service. We're coming up close to the midterm election time. This guy has not carried a lot of favor during this whole COVID-19 thing. So he has to do something to bring him back into the good graces of the people. And he's found it through this gun control legislation that he's supposedly fighting for, even though he hasn't since 2011. So Um, People, just keep your ears and eyes open. There's always going to be distractions coming in, but there's always going to be, um, like I said, whenever those distractions come, I'm going to look and see what's going on in legislation. I'm going to look and see what's going on in Congress, because this is the time when they pass these different bills and things of that nature, and we don't even know what's going on because we're paying attention to something that's superficial. Some rappers are arguing with each other, or some female social media stars got something going on. They're paid to do those types of things to get your attention off of what's really taking place. If you notice, since Biden's been in office, there's been like a kind of settling in the advertisement area, because you don't have advertisers who are vying for attention and space on the social media sites with the president anymore. The president wanted to stay a social media star, and he wanted to have all of the attention. So you found all of the social media sites competing with him for attention and airtime and views and streams. But we don't have any of that to deal with anymore. We can settle out, we can calm down, and we can create. We'll never get back to the way things were. We don't want to go backwards anyway. We want to move forward and build and create a new America. We have an opportunity now. Let's seize it. This is your boy D Mac. And like I always say, sticks and stones will break your bones, but the word can always heal you. If you like this content, please splash up the likes and share it to other people. We need to get this message out, just to plant that seed in the mind of others. I love each and every one of you, and I'm out.